Ancient technologies. Building the Great Pyramid. Well, not going to get the full details, obviously. That stuff would be in the book. But this will be some of the information that would be in the book. Because people always ask the question, like, how do you... We're going to pretend this is a 70-ton block of granite. How do you lift this type of stone, onto the pyramid? Well, one way would be to actually build the first layer of the pyramid, right? You want to get the first layer, and then you want to get like a ramp, right? With a ramp block, which is, I coined that phrase, right? Ramp block. So it's a block that's shaped like a ramp, has an angle to it, so you can take the block up, pull it up, and get it to the first level, right? So now it's on the first level. So what you want to do, you don't need to lift the block up that high. You can use multiple cranes and stuff like that, among other things to help, even levers and stuff like that, to help you lift it up just a little bit. Just lift up just a little bit. But the main thing, you want to lift it high enough you can get another block under there. Just grab another block. So of course you will have this over here, right? Just waiting, and then you will bring a block up, right? Put it into position. And the idea is you want to bring this block and bring it up. Right? Well, I said it wrong. Let me repeat it. Sorry. What I meant was, this is where it would be, right? It would be in this spot. The idea is you want to lift it up and then put something under it. So let's move it out here. Bring the block up. And now the idea is this will be lifted, and then you bring this block under it, and then you can set it back down, right? So you'll be able to set the block back down on top of that block. And then you continue to build, the second layer. And then you'll want to, like I said, do the ramp block thing. You get the ideas. To get to the second layer, then you want to pick this back up, right? Pick it up so that way you can get another block under that layer. So then you go up, right? You get the block under that layer. Oops, where am I at? Here. And then now you'll be able to set it back down. The whole idea is just to lift it high enough to get blocks under it. Now you can have like smaller blocks and then slowly lift, put blocks, lift, put blocks, just to take your time, slowly. You don't have to be in a hurry. Just gotta get it high enough with enough, pulleys and ropes and cranes, right? Whatever. You can, and that's the thing, you can use rocks, stone to lift stone. You can use a stone that's heavy. Let's say that's a 2-ton stone. You can use like 1 or 2, tie that up to your pulley system, and have that help you lift this block. You gotta think about like the math, like how many, like based on the pulley and the weight of each of these blocks, how many of them you would need to, lift this up just enough to get above 1 block. Most of the blocks are not even that tall. I mean, if I'm right, most of the blocks are at least 6 feet tall. You only need to lift it 6 feet up. Some people are like, how they lifted 170 feet in the air? Well, they didn't. They just lifted up 6 feet and put a block under it, and then this will sit on top of the block. Oops, this will sit on top of the block. Right? And then when they need to lift it up, they lift it up again, and then they put another block on there, and they keep doing that. And this is the way you use the pyramid itself to jack up the block. But of course, there'll be more details. So one of the things I wanted to point out before was that I think what happened when they built the Great Pyramid was they built the center. They made the center hollow, because in order to incorporate the King's Chamber and stuff like that, they needed to hollow out the middle. So they would have to have built it, with something like this, and they would have leave this area open, and they would continue to build the pyramid, right? They have to continue building the pyramid, on one side, and then build the pyramid right on the other side, and leave the middle side open, so that way they can do the Grand Gallery. So like, we'll build the Grand Gallery here, then the Queen's Chamber, right, will be above it. Maybe on this side, will be above it here. So then they'll incorporate, and then there'll be the Grand Gallery there. Let's see, I'm having trouble doing things with one hand. And they'll have the Grand Gallery. So that'll be the Grand Gallery going up into the King's Chamber. The King's Chamber is the blue block, right, for example. So it would have been like they would have left a gap in the middle so they can build up that particular area of the Great Pyramid. While they build one side, they build the other side. And also by having this gap in the middle, right, so let's say they didn't even build this part yet, because they're still building the rest of the pyramid. By having this gap, let's go here, by having this gap, they're able to, have, they're able to have an empty spot here that they can build from. So they're able to have stuff like a crane, and have a crane go, pick up a block, right, and be able to move it here, and then put a block there, and bang, you have a block there. You know what I'm saying? So by having this open space here in the middle of the pyramid, it allows you to build two sides of the pyramids. And then when you want to finish the pyramid, right, obviously you'll start building up from here up and start building the inside of the pyramid. And you'll put in the first layer and stuff, and you'll start building up the center of the pyramid. Put in the stuff that you need, because it's like, how did they get all that, the king chamber, queen chamber, all that stuff in there? They had to have left a gap in the construction, one, to help them easily build, because it's much better to try to lift things, especially if it's their big stuff, lift it off up and then put it on top, than it would be to go up the little steps, right? Instead of trying to go up a slope, it's better to go straight up. So instead of going at an angle, right? Instead of going at an angle, just go straight up, right? And then they could pull. And then since they have this side and this side, essentially walls, they're able to put stuff on here on each side to help lift something. So then they can lift a block up right in the middle, right? It's like, lift it up and, get it to the top, get it to what they need to get it to. So that's just some ideas, stuff that I'm working on. Still gotta make sure, get it all fine-tuned, make sure everything works the way it was. But that's pretty much, because I have a concept, which is ironically this one, which is how you could build pyramid, period. But that's if you're not trying to put the grand gallery and all that stuff in it, right? Because then you see you have the ramp block here that gets you here, so that you can have a block. Right? You like, take the block here, go up here, right? And then actually should have been stuff there. Take stuff out of there. Oops. There you go. Right. You go up, and you can put the blocks up here. Make some space. Oops. Oh. Obviously you move more, and then you can start building up here, and then you work your way back down. Oops. Work your way back down, and then the idea is to build it back around, up again, and just keep like spiraling. So it's like a spiral construction. I'll show you this view. So you will spiral construct it, and you just keep building, and then come back down. And then so you spiral upwards, and then you come back down, spiral downwards, and then spiral back up. And you keep building that over and over again. Because there's a limit to the little spiral pattern, right? There's a limit. You can only go but so far in this particular space, right? And then it's like, all right, once we got there, now we gotta move. And so once you get here, it's like it'd be hard to go anywhere else, right? Because there's all this gap right here. So it's like, all right, now I gotta go back down, out here, and then start building out here. Right, start building out here, and then spiral back around and work your way up. So that's a method. So that'll be in the books in more detail. Just want to show the concept. Another thing they can do, and something I want to point out, and it'll be in the book, of course, is the idea that the Great Pyramid be a solid structure. A lot of people assume, because we have no confirmation, that the whole entire structure is solid. Something like this, right? Just blocks everywhere, right? Complete solid structure with no gaps, right? Everything's all solid, right? But in reality, it's probably more like this, where there's a whole bunch of gaps, right? A whole bunch of chambers, right? And then they, fill up the chambers. So a whole bunch of gaps, right? And they fill up these gaps, these chambers, up with anything. They could fill it up with sand, right? They just fill it with a whole bunch of sand. And there we go. Now we got. So now it's a little bit more solid because it's filled. So they can fill up a whole bunch of chambers, and they can fill it with sand because sand will be easier to transport and to fill. And this is how they will be able to make the structure pretty solid with less material, less as in less block materials, less stone. So they can use less stuff. They can even throw blocks in there. I'll use this as a example of a block. Put the dice in there, boom. They can just throw in, some blocks, not one block, but a couple blocks in there, right? And then they can also still fill it up with sand, right, to fill in any gaps and make it a little bit more solid. You get the idea. I'm making a big mess, but you get the idea that it's like we can't assume that every inch of the pyramid is solid like that. Just blocks on top of blocks and blocks. There's a whole possibility. There's a whole bunch of voids, empty spaces they're designed and filled with sand, like a whole bunch of pits, a whole bunch of big pits full with sand, and then they build a top on top of it, right? They like, just put some rocks on top of that, and there we go. They have a pretty solid structure, and that's a way they'll make it faster for them to build the Great Pyramid when they're not using only blocks to build the Great Pyramid.